What is enlightenment? Again, this is one of those words that have come from India, to be enlightened. To be enlightened about what? I want, please let's be rational, not irrational. What, when I will say enlightened, I'm enlightened about what? Say, for instance, I'm enlightened about my relationship with another. That is, I've understood my relationship with another is based on my image about the other, however intimate. That image has been put together through many years by constant reaction, indifference, comfort, you follow? The nagging, all that, between man and woman or all that. So the image is built. And she has built an image about you. So the relationship is between the two images, which is obvious. And that's what we call a relationship. Now, I perceive the truth of it, and I say, I'm enlightened about it. I'm enlightened about violence. I see clearly, without any distortion, with clear eyes, the whole movement of violence. I see how sorrow arises. And the ending of sorrow is, I'm enlightened about it. But we don't mean that. Right? We mean something else. I am enlightened. I will tell you about it. Come to me. And you, rather gullible, and say, yes, tell me all about it. So, I don't want to go into all this. I don't know if you're interested in me. See, we must understand, if you're really going to what is enlightenment, illumination, the voice of truth, not my voice, voice of truth. We must go very carefully into the question of time. The so-called enlightened people have said, well, I've come to it through time, gradually. Life after life, if we believe in reincarnation, I've come to the point when I'm enlightened about everything. Right? Which is, it's a gradual process of experience, knowledge, a constant movement from the past to the present and the future, this cycle. Right? So, if you are interested in it, is enlightenment the ultimate thing, a matter of time? Is it? I hope you're on board by this, are you? Is it a gradual process which means the process of time, the process of evolution, the gradual becoming that. You follow? So one must understand the nature of time. Not the chronological time, but the psychological structure which has accepted time. You're following this? That is, I have hoped to ultimately get there. The desire, which is part of hope, ultimately says, I'll get there. And the so-called enlightened people, and they are not, because the moment they say, I am enlightened, they are not. It's their vanity. It's like a man saying, I'm really humble. When a man says that, you know what it is. Humility is not the opposite of vanity. When the vanity ends, the other is. Those people who have said, we are enlightened, say you must go through step by step. Practice this, do that, don't do this. Become my pupil, I'll tell you what to do, I'll give you an Indian name or a Christian new name, and so on, so on, so on. And you, kind of irrational human being, accept this nonsense. So we are saying, ask, is that supreme enlightenment? We understand what meaning of that word. A mind that has no conflict, no sense of striving, going, moving, achieving. So we must understand this question of time, which is the constant becoming or not becoming, which is the same, right? The becoming and the not becoming. And when that becoming is rooted in the mind, that becoming conditions all your thinking, all your activity, then it is a matter of using time as a means of becoming, achieving. But is there such thing as becoming? You understand? I am violent. I will be non-violent. That is becoming an idea. Right? I am violent, and the non-violence, I project the idea of not being violent. Because, so I create duality, violent and non-violent. And so there's conflict. Then I say I must control myself, I must suppress, I must analyze, I must go to psychologists, I must psychotherapists, and so on, so on, so on. Without creating the opposite, the non-violence, The fact is violence, not non-violence. Right? The fact, the non-violence is non-fact. If you get that once, the truth of that is, I am violent, the concept of non-violence brings about this conflict between the opposites. The non-fact has no value, only the fact, which is unviolent. Now, to observe the whole movement of violence, anger, jealousy, hate, competition, imitation, conformity, and so on and so on. To observe it without any direction, without any motive. Right? Then, if you do that, then there is the end of violence, which is an immediate perception and action. I wonder if you understand this. Bene? Ha capito? So, one can see that illumination, this sense of ultimate reality and so on, is not of time. This goes against the whole psychological religious world. The Christians with their souls, with their saviors, with their ultimate, etc., etc. We say, perception is action, not perception, great interval, and then action. In that interval, you create the idea. Right? Are you following all this? So we are pointing out something, which is, can the mind, the brain, the whole human nervous structure, as well as psychological structure, be free of this burden of million years of time? So that you see something clearly and action is invariably immediate. That action will be rational, not irrational. That action can be explained logically, sanely. So we are saying that ultimate thing which is true is not to be achieved through time. It can never be achieved. It is there or it is not there.
Prasad sir.
Yeah. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, friends. This topic about enlightenment, Krishna ji talks first about relationship, then violence, and then whether this is a gradual process or it is the perception, is the action. And in between, Krishna ji uses the ultimate reality beyond time and rational action, illumination, voice of truth, all that. So Krishnaji had his own language. He had developed to express his view. And it seems to me that Krishnaji did not like this word enlightenment um, because maybe it is connected with tradition. The first time when I came to know about this word enlightenment, it was related to Buddha because thousands of years ago, 2500 years ago, Buddha had uh, seen something, felt something extraordinary, a kind of a clarity, a different state of living. Uh, he had felt kind of compassion, love, and clarity. It was an event which was felt by him very distinctly. It was not something gradual, though he had learned the methods of meditation from some gurus, and he could meditate. His gurus were also very happy with his progress in the ashram, and the gurus wanted Buddha to take over the ashram, but Buddha felt that no, there was something was lacking. And so he went away from the ashrams and gurus, and with 5 friends, he performed many austerities, did not eat for many days. He was starving, and that really did not help him practicing all these austerities. And so he left his friends and he went alone, and he was sitting every day under a tree in Bodh Gaya. And one day, when he opened his eyes in the morning, he looked at everything in a different way than before. He looked at the morning star, and that star looked like a huge diamond. It was so bright. It seems to me, that something, a great transformation happened in the brain of Buddha, and that affected his way of looking, thinking, living, everything. So, this enlightenment, it seems to me that it is a kind of a different state altogether than the normal state of looking at things. And it has to do with a lot of energy going in the brain. And Krishnaji talks about mutation of the brain cells. So something like that probably happened first time in the life of Buddha. And so he saw everything very, very clear. And he could feel the suffering of all human beings. He saw all these human beings within himself, and he saw himself in all human beings. So, this kind of description of oneness with all human beings, which also describes in Advaita Vedanta, where there is no sense of me separate from the rest of the universe, humanity. So that kind of very distinct experience which Buddha went through, and that is called enlightenment. And Krishnaji doesn't really go into that because Krishnaji has his own way about perception is the action, and it is not connected with a gradual process And that is what Krishna ji normally talks. But it seems to me that this kind of transformation happens in the life of some people who are very, very passionate in looking in their own mind. And then when they develop a very state of attention and not escaping, not thinking, then in some human beings, some remarkable change happens and they feel it, and they feel that they are no longer like the way they were before. Their way of looking at a tree or a human being or nature, everything changes. Some changes happen in the brain and in the eyes, in the way of looking at everything. And one can see clearly without thinking. Like when Krishna ji says, how do you look at a tree or a face of your husband or wife? What he is trying to say that there is a different way of looking, listening, learning. And this happens in some human beings, and some people can become famous. They become gurus and they can gather many disciples like Buddha. After this enlightenment, wherever Buddha went and spoke, people listened well because he was describing his own uh, experiment of living and his own experience. And then Buddha was showing that there is a possibility of freedom from psychological problems like violence, fear, anger, jealousy. And when that freedom happens, then there happens what is called love, beauty, compassion, intelligence, freedom. They are all different words for the same state of freedom. So I feel from my own living for last 50 years that after reading Krishnamurti, when I became very curious to look at my own mind and how do you look, that is because one needs a freedom to look at oneself, not through thinking. Because if we are looking at ourselves through thinking or feeling, it is intellectual. But that freedom, what Krishnaji calls awareness or intelligence, when that is awakened, and we cannot do anything about this awakening. It is not in our hand. It is not in our will, desire for this awakening of awareness or intelligence to look at thoughts and feelings very, very clearly. It means that when there is a anger is arising, in case it is arising, or a fear or desire or jealousy, one can look at what is as it is at the beginning. And that is why that perception is the action, Krishnaji said. So that perception comes effortlessly. And it is not a momentary thing that one day you have the perception and the next day it is gone and then you want to get it back. Because that thing also happens to some human beings that they get extraordinary sense of perception for a day or two and then it goes away and then they are back to normal and then they want to get it back and then it becomes a problem to get it back. And so there is a lot of conflict happens. But this enlightenment is not something momentary. It changes your way of living forever. once it happens, then you no longer get angry when somebody criticizes you. You can listen carefully and can see whether what that person says is true or false. Because you get this self knowledge, and it is not an accumulated knowledge. It is moment by moment living with what is, without what should be, without the conflict. So it is a living with what is, moment by moment, without effort, without any motive, without any desire. So this has no direction. And so this is the state of enlightenment in which we can feel what Krishnaji calls love or beauty or compassion, because there is no sense of self in this. And that is why he says, when the self is not, love is. And that love is beauty, it is compassion, it is freedom, it is choiceless awareness, or whatever we call it. So, what people say about this enlightenment, that it is a state of profound awareness. It is an understanding and insight into the nature of reality. It is to see the interconnectedness of everything. That means we are no longer isolated. Whatever happening, we can feel it, what is happening outside. It is a freedom from ignorance. It is an inner peace and calm, compassion and empathy, transcendence of ego. There is no ego, expansion of awareness. It is a subjective experience, of course, because what happens inside you, even if you tell other people, they may criticize you, they may say you are in illusion, they can make fun of you. So, but what happens inside you, this state where you see everything clearly every day, it cannot be communicated to other human beings. Only when other people also come to that, then they will understand. So when you have this feeling, and then when you read Krishnamurti, then you will say what Krishnamurti says is quite obvious. It is not something extraordinary. You will feel that he is saying something extraordinary only because you are thinking that he is great and you are comparing yourself with him, and you put him at a very high pedestal, and you think that only Krishnamurti is correct and everybody is just intellectual. And like that you may make, because you make image about Krishnamurti. And that is what happens, that many people who are the followers of Krishnamurti, they will say only Krishnamurti is right. All other traditional teachers, they were not right because they went through gradual process and like that. And Krishnamurti says it is a sudden enlightenment. Of course, it is sudden, but one needs, it just doesn't happen by not doing anything. One has to really observe one's own mind day after day in relationship. And when one feels anger or jealousy, one has to look at it. And when there is a clear looking, then there is no more struggle to become somebody. You are what you are, and that you speak from your own way of living. So you don't need to quote anybody. And this is a real beauty. And I feel that this happens in some human beings, if they are really worthy for that, they have really worked very, very deeply, and they are also living a good, honest life without the desire to become a guru or become famous, to acquire money and power and fame, all that. So only when a person is very innocent and very attentive to his own mind, because generally we know a lot about other people, but we don't know about our own self. And so we don't know when we get angry, when the fear arises, and comparison and jealousy and all that. So extraordinary possibility exists in human beings, or human beings can become worse than animals, become very, very violent, or can become like Buddha. And I feel that there have been many people on this planet like Buddha. Even before Buddha, there were many Buddhas there. So I think I have said enough thing right now. Let people speak what they feel about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad. Dinesh ji.
Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Today's subject is really interesting as usual. What is enlightenment? Actually, what happens, my personal feeling is when JK used to make any answer, or he used to give any answer, he also sees who is sitting in front of him, how worthy they are, as Harshad sir said. So it depends, the answer depends on who is sitting in front of him. So that also we have to consider. And say, for example, now in this case, he has said that this word has come from India. And enlightenment about what? So this clearly says that he was not sure about the worthiness of the people sitting in front of him. So he started giving examples of relationship, image, and all that. There is a relationship between images, and then you have to see this, and when you see the truth of this, then you will be free of this, and etc., etc. Now, he has also said that you see, you must understand, if we really go into what is enlightenment, illumination, the voice of truth, not of my voice, you must go very carefully into the question of time. Now, for him, question of time may not be there. Although we know that Krishnamurti has taken so many years and so many secret process was going on with him and all that. But let us consider that in his case, there was no time, and he got enlightenment without any time. Okay. But when we answer this question, he himself has said that it has come from India. So in India, basically in tradition, there are three words. One is realization. I'm just referring to the translation in English. Realization, enlightenment, and third is the last thing, which we will discuss later. So what is realization? This is known as Atma Sakshatkar. Means you have seen the total truth of it, what JK said. This is similar to it. Because when we say conditioning, tradition says it's sanskars. You have to get free of all the sanskars, and then you will be enlightened, or you will be. This actually enlightenment is not that powerful word. It is in between word, and you can say that this is in between word. which is known as Atma Jagruti. Jagruti. And all the Maharashtrian saints have talked about it and all that. And even the local people have also discussed about it. But what has happened in realization, you know that your intellect is unable to cross the boundary, but clarity had come that there is some dimension which is interfering in your life, means suffering, or say curiosity. Why you are so curious about going in that direction? Most of the people are not going for this thing, spirituality. Why you are going? Because something is there. Then next thing is, when we say enlightenment, means the energy acting behind comes forward. And the last thing, what last word which we say in our tradition is yog. Yog means, the word is very wide and you can go through it, but mainly it is when we go through the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, then it is a Chitta Vritti Nirodh and all that. Chitta Vritti Nirodh is nothing but the negation of the Krishna Murti. Because if the Vritti Nirodh is there, means there is a negation of the Vritti or negation of the any any pulse of any desire, we can say. Third, now based on this, there are various dikshas which have been discussed in our tradition, which are, first is Goni Diksha, means man goes to Guru sees his state and gives a mantra or something, and then he says that you just repeat this. Then there is a Shaktipat Diksha, Shaktopai, it is known as Shaktopai, in which there is a disciple feels the energy of it. Or whenever he goes to near Guru, he feels the energy of it, or a different kind of environment or something like that. And third is Shambhavi Diksha. Shambhavi is the Guru places hand on the disciple and he immediately gets the yoga, which is the case of Vivekananda, we can say. They also set the time. In Shambhavi Diksha, it is immediate. If disciple is good, then 6 months. For all others, 12 years, which matches with the Kumbh Mela, and still others which are still on the what we can say samsara sides, or we can say that they are mainly interested in the worldly things, and still others depend on their individuality. So here individuality question has also come. And even we see in case of Krishnamurti also, and Krishnamurti says there should not be any time. Arvind says there can be a time. So various people say various things based on their individuality. So it depends on your individuality. Even people say that Buddha has talked this, Buddha has talked that, but Buddha, nobody talks about Buddha's eightfold path. Buddha's eightfold path, nobody talks. Patanjali's eightfold path, nobody talks about this. Now, who has come earlier, Buddha or Patanjali, that is debatable. Tantra, Vedanta came from Vedas, which is also quite old. So we can say that basically the question of that thing means ultimate thing is yoga. Sorry for the disturbance, there is some disturbance outside. But yoga is there, and one has to achieve that yoga, and that gives all the conditions which Harshad sir has said. So there are different conditions for the different people and their worthiness. Thank you. We will see later on if there is anything.
Dakshina Murthy ji. Dakshina Murthy ji, please come forward.
Yeah. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah. Krishnaji says the word enlightenment has been imported from India. That itself shows that he doesn't like the word. But he has given some examples and then slowly built up this what is enlightenment. He has given the example of a relationship. He has given the example of suffering. In relationship, you all know it is a relation is between two images. The man has an image about the wife has an image about the husband. So what he's trying to say is, can you really go into this problem of relationship and understand why we are making images, and can we come to a state where image making is not there? When the image making is not there, then only there is a true relationship. But we are not doing it. So he is again telling, if somebody says, I am enlightened, you don't believe him. Why? Because the word I is there, when the self is there is no enlightenment, or there is no understanding. The real understanding is only in the current moment when the self is absent, thought is absent. That's why many gurus, they are coming out with these words, I am enlightened, follow me, I will show you the way. And many people, gullible people, follow those gurus. That's why he is telling that's not a correct thing. In fact, that could be the reason why he doesn't like the word. And he also says, what is there to be enlightened, etc., etc. Now he is talking about the other thing. Like he took violence as an example, and he is telling how people project non-violence. Violence is a fact. Violence is what is. Instead of staying with what is, they have projected a ideal called non-violence and try to achieve that. Non-violence is a non-fact. What Krishnaji is telling is, you stay with the fact and see what is doing it. That is nothing but perception and action. When you stay with the fact without any movement, movement means again time is there. So in that state only, perception and action means the action is whatever is not truth will fall away. The false will fall away. And what remains is the truth. So in a sense, he is pointing out that enlightenment can be considered as finding the truth with the process of perception and action. That we are not doing. So the word is getting is diluted, and many gurus are misusing that word. So ultimately, what he is saying is, again, see what is to be enlightened. If you see, if you say I am enlightened, the person is enlightened. What is that I? We all know that I is nothing but an image, and it is an illusion. It is a bundle of memories. How a bundle of memories can be enlightened? Bundle of memories means they are words only, right? And how words can be enlightened? We all know that self is an illusion. How the illusion can be enlightened? That will be a bigger illusion. Just to give you an example, Suppose in science, we all learned what is a real image and what is a virtual image. A virtual image is one which is not there, but it appears as if it is there. The self is also a virtual image. It is not even a real image. Suppose I go and stand in the sun. And somebody takes a photograph. My photo will come. Along with that, the photo of my shadow will also come. The shadow of me in the sunlight is a real image. That's why it can be captured on the photographic plate, whereas the virtual image cannot be captured. So the I is a virtual image, it is an illusion. Illusion can never become non-violent, illusion can never become enlightened. All these things are there. That's why he is telling what you are. What is what you are now. What you are is what you are now. Now, what you are now means what you are now in your consciousness. In your consciousness, anger is there, you are anger. In your consciousness, jealousy is there, you are jealousy. So, if there is violence in my consciousness, I should stay with that fact of violence and observe it without interfering with that. We are not doing it. Instead of that, we are going away from violence. We have created something called non-violence, which is an ideal. And in the process, you have created duality, violence and non-violence. And I want to achieve non-violence. So this is a big mistake that all human beings are doing for millions of years until a great man like Krishnaji came and told us about all these things. That's all I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
Pradeep ji.
Yes. Audible I am?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, friends. A very interesting topic, very interesting and very deep topic in the sense. Whenever we try, this is what I feel, whenever we try to understand important issues like enlightenment through stories, we automatically are dislodged from what is to what may be, or what should have been, or what certain images will erupt immediately. You see, I have listened very carefully to earlier speakers, and I don't know what Buddha might have felt, or what different rishis would have felt, what they have written about it as words, and how it has reached me. Absolutely. Imagine, I don't know much about it, although out of curiosity, I have also tried to learn or explore myself through these. Dinesh ji, as usual, he was glorifying time and teachings. Suppose the person is not acquainted with any scripture, which is the case for most of the our friends, people all around us. You see, suppose they have not, and it's a fact, they don't know anything about scriptural knowledge. They don't know about the different stories. They are busy in they are facing life as such, straight. You see, so this happens. Otherwise, this time factor, even long back Kabir said, खोजी हो तो तुरंत मिल जाऊं पल भर की तलाश में. And this is what Krishnamurti is also hinting at. You see, time is not required. Khoji means what? Who has inquiry, who doesn't know, who is exploring himself. What am I looking for? What am I seeking? So he has to, within himself, he has to see, rather than, because immediately you start imagining, this is a beautiful brain starts imagining. The moment listen to words, I listen to stories, it starts imagining certain things. So for me, the best thing to talk about it, because have we talked about enlightenment in our daily life anywhere, anytime, except this borrowed word and certain symptoms associated with certain people who have attained that and who say they have, or their disciples say they have. So, other than that, have we come across this word? No. To me, I have never come across that I want enlightenment. You, of course, JK said, be enlightened to yourself. And as a common man, we understand that light is important to see things clearly. Harshad Bhai has covered most of it. And Dinesh has covered the scriptural part or the traditional part of it. Suppose these things are not available to a common person. Even JK asked this question. He is blank. I started as a blank person when I started this listening to different people. But while listening, I started writing short notes. What what are the questions in my mind at this moment? So this is one thing. So to see, it's a common feature. To see clearly, light is required. But light is required to see, and what is available to what we consider as seeing it clearly is the optical part of it, the visual part of it. The most of it is invisible to us. So that is what seeing things as they are. Of course, we can quote certain people who could see beyond these words. And people have talked about it, going beyond the words, between the lines, and all that. But the common experience with myself is we can see only a part of what is, unless until you have a deep insight into nature's working and its slow movements, which are not easily visible to most of us. So this is one thing. Uh, and light is one thing, visual, optical. Another light, when you are unencumbered, when you are not carrying the huge baggage or garbage of the past, and you feel if you are free, this also is a this also uh, it is very it is a everybody likes this. I should be light. I should be light. You see, light. If we are all heavy with conditionings, with our likes and dislikes. So that is one thing. So unencumbered, that also makes you light. You see, that also makes you light. And then you can see in a better way, and what we usually call as newness. So this newness based on my earlier, whether I am retaining past, and from that we are seeing. So this is whenever he said perception is action, because seeing in all forms is important, because all our actions immediately the whole body responds to your seeing, and seeing includes all the senses. So that's why perception, one has to see where do where do I stand, where each one of us stands, rather than learning something about myself and my seeking enlightenment through stories, through someone. I don't know. The only thing I can, because I am closer to myself than anything else. So there is chance if I explore within myself, what is that I am looking for? And whether I am alert enough to see things happening around me, within me, how much is something is warning me. So to be quite yes. So thank you, friends. This is what right now I want to say, because we have to, because these things are very good to hear, these things very attractive, and fortunately I have also gone through this without the sense that it will take this much time to achieve what. So that is not the thing. But curiosity will take you to these things, curiosity. But this doesn't help everyone, and especially those people who are without absolute formal knowledge and gurus. So we have to think that way, like an innocent child. As Huxley said, sit down before fact like a little child. Forget about what you know, and then you can see what is what. Anyway, thank you very much. I have taken enough time. Thank you. Thank you.
Very enlightening talk by Pradeep ji. And now we should move to Prasad sir. Prasad sir,
Namaste, sir.
Namaste sir, come on, come forward.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
Yes sir.
This this, this word enlightenment is a very, I don't know what to call it.
Enlightenment is basically putting light on things which are dark, which we don't know, which we try to understand. Then when understanding comes, then we say that some light has been thrown upon it.
Sir,
Mm.
most of us are greedy
Mm.
for wealth. Some of us are greedy for enlightenment. I mean, if you are seeking enlightenment, possibly that is also a kind of greed, spiritual greed. You are not satisfied with worldly things, and so you turn to the spiritual sphere, and there you want to achieve enlightenment. And this, why some people claim that they are enlightened, and we attribute enlightenment to some other people. It is something like that, there is a statement: some people are born great, some achieve greatness, and on some greatness is thrust. Like that, we attribute enlightenment to some people. We say X is enlightened, Y is enlightened, like that. This is apart from those who claim themselves that they are enlightened. Krishnaji says, if somebody claims that he is enlightened, don't accept it, don't believe it, reject it, something like that. And in life, I think we must have some skepticism. Without skepticism, you keep on absorbing everything. Pradeep ji was talking about a light. In those days when I was going by train, now of course I don't travel at all. When I was going by train, there used to be a kind of slogan there: less luggage, more comfort, make travel a pleasure. So less luggage. So that was of course physical luggage, but I think Pradeep ji was referring to mental luggage, spiritual luggage. We have so much luggage, and a certain amount of skepticism would take you to, I mean, what Dakshina Murthy ji has said. I feel a little closer to what he said. Like your self itself is a virtual self. It is an image. How can something, an image, how can a word, a memory of the past, that is yourself, how can that be enlightened? So, the claim of enlightenment must be, I mean, we must think of it with a lot of doubt. Krishnaji has said somewhere, I am not talking of that super self. I am talking of only normal self. Normal self is what Dakshina Murthy ji has described. It is simply image. It is simply memory. It is simply
Prasad
prejudice.
sir,
All
Prasad
sorts
sir,
of things. Pardon,
Prasad
sir.
sir, I want to say one thing here. If the self is only illusory, then why the problems are there in the relationship itself? So we have to see the fact. We cannot reject that self is illusory, so it is not affecting.
Sir,
Actually, it is affecting our life,
yes. You
and we have to
see,
see to the fact of it. So by saying that it is illusory, we don't get any flexibility or any type of freedom. We have to see the fact where the ego, where the self is working. Actually, we have to see through the fact of it. Yes, sir, Prasad sir. Please continue.
yes, sir. You see, it is illusory, but illusion also is real. You you think, when I believe in a ghost, the ghost is real. I am afraid of the ghost as though it is something real. Like that, I think, you see, in tradition, in Gita, etc., there is the description of a self. There we say self is something which cannot be burnt, which cannot be wetted, which cannot be destroyed. It is something permanent. That is one way of looking at self, that there is something in you which is timeless, which is perpetual. That element of eternity is there in you. That is one way of looking at life. That is how tradition has described Atma and Paramatma and all that. That there is a Atma, there is a Paramatma, and these two will join together at some point. You take life after life, gradually, you join that. That is how you can look at it. But that is only a kind of speculation. Simply because a speculation has lasted for 2000 years or more than that, it doesn't become truth. For me, what is verifiable? What do I see in myself? I see lot of, Indian tradition has also describes that in very ugly terms. Your body is very ugly. That is how some descriptions are there. Whereas Renaissance in the West, it talked of the beauty of the human body. So, you approach Krishnaji, I don't think he doesn't say there is anything eternal in you. What he says is only It is thought. Basically, it is thought. Thought, he says, is material. It is not spiritual, or there is nothing spiritual about it. It is only material stuff. So, once you regard yourself like that, this enlightenment, we are concerned with our life. In our life, we have all these problems. He talks of relationship. With all our knowledge, with all our study of scriptures, do we have a peaceful life? Do we have a life free of conflict with anybody? You have conflict with so many people. You have conflict in the office. You have conflict with a sect of people, a section of people. So, is there joy on your face? No. We read Krishnamurti, but there is no joy on our face. Why? If we are reading something valuable and we are absorbing that, there should be, your face should be an expression. For me, Pradeep ji's face is expressive. He is almost like a saint. Even though you can see that he is making genuine effort. So, your face, is there joy in your life? Are you free of sorrow? That's what I want to know. Can we honestly say, I have no sorrow? I have no sorrow about myself, about my family, about my children. I have no sorrow of any type. Can I say that? Until I say that, I am not enlightened. If I can say that, I am enlightened. For me, out of experience, because Krishnaji never talks about his experience. And he doesn't, I think he doesn't you to talk about your experience also. But I can say, when the mind is free of that luggage, there is a certain amount of freedom in it. You can feel it. You can feel yourself that, yes. But as Harshadji has said, that's an experience which may not recur. You may get that experience today, and you may lose that experience tomorrow, and it may not come back. And you struggle for that. And as you struggle, it goes further and further away from you. So like that, but it is better, I think, to try to absorb what Krishnaji says about these elements like relationships, violence, sorrow, desire, all these things, pleasure, getting rid of pain, Our life is only chasing pleasure and trying to escape pain. Only that. That is what we see. And all the other talk that you can get Kundalini and all that stuff or whatever, there are so many things of that type, I think. They are just, there is a word, chimera, something like that in English. This is only wild goose chase. You are lost in that type of pursuit. And I think it is better we keep to the known and then search for the unknown. Thank you, sir.
Shakti,
Yes, sir. This word enlightenment is a sort of hypothesis. I have no ground to reject it, and it may be, it may not be, but the implications are very similar to when Krishnamurti talks about awakening of intelligence or the mutation of the brain cells. So the problem with this is that if I make it a motive in my experimentation, then I may project something which is not real and call it enlightenment of whatsoever. So one has to be very honest with
मैं तो अभी
himself.
चल रहा है.
And for example, Krishnamurti says that when there is attention, there is no center. Now, I look within myself. What I call attention, I always find there is an attender there. I have not come across an attention in which there is no center. But that is my perception of it. But I cannot say that there cannot be an attention in which there is no center. There can be. But I have to be with my fact. And it can also be seen that when there is inattention, that center is very prominent. And in the moments of attention, when somebody is talking and I am paying attention, in that attention, that center is dormant. So the only thing is we can be with our own fact and see what observation does, and other things we neither can reject nor can confirm because they are not in the area of our own experiment. Thank you, sir.
Dinesh Waghmare ji, please be brief, sir.
Yes,
Dinesh ji,
sir.
please be brief.
Yes, sir. First of all, we have to understand that image making basically is a natural thing. And why it is there? Because of insecurity. Next time, if I will get any such similar challenge, then I will tackle with my past knowledge. So, it is even JK said that about the chronological time. So chronological time and this time, psychological time, basically they are not different. But for the sake of our convenience, we have made them separate. One is mainly having an intellectual part and other is having feelings and emotions part. So we have to understand that whatever we say, that even without image and this thing, we can see and what we should see without image. So basically that is one has to see in himself, is it possible? Okay, he can see clearly, but if it is of use to him, he has to keep the image of it. So that is to be seen. And similarly, whatever has been discussion today, in that I was present and duality was also there. So it is very clear that enlightenment word is a in-between word, which is not a complete thing. Thank you.
Pradeep ji.
Is it unmuted or muted?
It is unmuted, sir. Please go. Be brief.
Okay. I'll take hardly half a minute because somehow we take we we realize now that life is whole and psychosomatic, but we tend to divide it into physical and psychological, and it starts from there. The psyche is conditioned to talk like this without dividing where will be the words and all that. So physical baggage is because of the seeking, my accumulating things. You see, physical, how it has, I have accumulated because of my psyche. And then when it bounces back, I suffer. So it is a cyclical thing within life. So everything ultimately, the whole thing is psychological. In effect, if you understand, everything is psychological only. Suffering, psychological. Happiness, I'm not talking of idealistic, but it is also psychological. The whole life, physical to psychological to physical to psychological, and such a within a fraction of a second, this happens in us. So there is no point because the moment we split and what he says, observer is observed, the moment it is out, everything is becomes words and the gap between. Thank you very much. This is all what I wanted. Let it be whole in us. Thank you.
Ravi Kaushal ji, please be brief. And Ravi,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and please say only what you think, what not others have told, because we don't have that much time now.
Okay.
Please
Am I
unmute.
audible, sir? Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
So you are saying say only what you think, what you want to say, or not say what other things. So my question is, as if everyone is saying what he is saying, and then go to home, then he remains the same. Then what is the point of talking? Do you understand that?
No. Basically, sir,
No,
Ravi
please,
sir,
sir, please, sir, please, sir, please, sir, please listen to that.
only I wanted to say, because we don't have that much time now for that.
No, sir, time, there is
Keep it.
plenty time.
More
No, sir,
time we should consume that.
no, sir. If I'm saying what I want to say, I remain what I am. Do you understand that? If there are people, whatever they want to say, they say and they go home, then there is no point of talking. Then there is no exploration. You listen the word exploration, and exploration means that we must question everything, including K, P, T, C, Osho, Fosho, whatever, whatever is there. Be it be Harshad Parekh, be it be Osho, be it be why are you talking about Buddha? Why are you talking about Krishnamurti? Why? Because you have images and you don't see that, and you talk about images. All this is bullshit. Please listen to that, sir. This is not right. If you are here, you are here. This is fire talk. This is not that This is not something like a tea, coffee, kitty party talk. If you are here, involve yourself completely. Otherwise, it has no meaning. So we are talking about enlightenment, and there are few beautiful minds, and I respect all the minds. The respect is by default, but that doesn't mean that I don't question all that, including K. That doesn't mean that. So there is a question: what is enlightenment? And I question that: is there any state of enlightenment which you say that this is the state of enlightenment? Can you say that? Is it a dead thing? Have you achieved that? Or K, and how do you know that K has achieved that? I mean, what the figures? And then Dinesh Waghmare always talked about all these.
Harshad sir.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I like to say about Prasad ji said something about body in the tradition, something ugly about body. But yoga is about body and mind, healthy body and healthy mind. So there is nothing so ugliness. It may be some people might have expressed something that the body is a disease, like Raman Maharshi used to say, but that is his personal view. But body must be very strong, and healthy body and healthy mind, both necessary. About saying that the self is an illusion, this ego, either it is just a piece of knowledge which we have got it from Krishnamurti and other people when they say that self is an illusion, a product of thinking, but to see it clearly, one needs freedom, what is called choiceless awareness. One needs freedom to see how this ego comes into existence. That means one has to look at the beginning of a thought, because from thinking this ego arises. So that is one thing. Um, uh, one cannot seek enlightenment. It is a byproduct. We cannot go directly to get enlightenment. But when we are able to observe very clearly about what is happening within us, exactly as the way it is, and moving with what is, then suddenly some energy may go to the brain, and what Krishnaji calls mutation of the brain cells. And this word enlightenment, this word light comes. That light is an energy. So a brain is filled with a different kind of energy when this happens. And the other meaning, light means not heavy. That means our life becomes light, means not heavy. We don't carry on with the problems. So that is what enlightenment means, at least my view, that you become light. And one light is the energy, and the other is not heaviness. Let me see. Yes, about the stories. We read stories and they point out something, and sometimes it really touches us. So even Krishnaji used to tell stories about two people walking, and somebody found something on the ground, truth, and then said he will organize it like that. So stories, Buddha used to tell many stories, but there is a meaning behind it, whether we are able to catch the meaning. And the last thing I would like to say is that Krishnaji says, don't accept anybody. And that means don't accept what Krishnamurti is saying too. One has to find out for oneself. Because the many things Krishnaji says, it may not be true. It may be true for him, but it may not be true for us. So ultimately, the ball is in our court. Are we able to really look at ourselves very clearly as it is? So when we are angry, we see the anger, and that seeing is the real thing. And that seeing is not through thinking. That seeing is the freedom. And so when we use that word seeing, observing, perception, all this word, it means something non-verbal. It's not intellectual. So there's a great challenge, and we can challenge other people. But we have to challenge our own self when there is any problem arising in relationship. It's easy to blame other people that he said something like this and that's why I got angry. But what is anger? And when such kind of questions when arise, it means that we are alert moment by moment without trying to be alert. And that's the beauty. Otherwise, we will get tired. When we try to be aware, it's not possible. So there is a great possibility exists, and it depends on the individual. And it's an infinite journey. There is no end to it. Okay, so I have finished. Thank you.
Harshad sir, food for the thought. Why he was having likes and dislikes? Like he was not. Somebody has said that he was not having this liking for this word. So we can take another subject on this. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for participation. Time has been up, so we will have to end it. Thank you.